Is it possible to make 30 billion by counterfeiting money without getting caught? These 4 Koreans answered the question with their actions. They successfully counterfeited 300,000 $100 bills. The total value was a whopping 30 billion won, but spending the counterfeit money wasn't their goal. Their next step was to exchange these fake bills for real cash, so the 4 of them targeted a casino, with a daily turnover of several $100,000. Because if they secretly swapped only $40,000 every day, the probability of getting caught would be almost zero. Once the operation began, they had one of their members apply for a job at the casino, and another disguised himself as a foreigner to exchange counterfeit money for chips. After succeeding, they would then exchange the chips for real cash. They repeated this process every day for 2 whole years, and finally obtained $30 million in real cash. But before they could even enjoy the fruits of their labor, the money was seized by someone with ill intentions. What exactly happened here? To get to the bottom of this story, we have to start from the very beginning. A man opened a can and pulled out a roll of RMB from it. He knew full well that it was counterfeit money, but he had to admit that it looked incredibly real. Even the texture and patterns were replicated flawlessly. He praised Sujin beside him, calling her a genius counterfeiting artist. As he spoke, he pulled out the agreed-upon payment, afraid that the man might try to trick her. Sujin carefully inspected the authenticity of the banknotes in her hand. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with the money, she signaled for him to unload the goods quickly. After all the goods were loaded onto the boat, Sujin drove to an exchange point, planning to convert all the US dollars into Korean won. Little did she know, the police had already set their sights on her. While she was waiting, the staff members' expression turned odd. At first, Sujin had no idea what was going on, until the man brought her a mirror and cleared his throat. That was when she realized that the 2 men behind her were not ordinary people, so she made a run for it at once. The police immediately started chasing her. As Sujin fled through the streets, she bumped into a foreigner. She quickly apologized and then continued to flee into an alley. She caused a complete commotion in the alley. Just as Sujin was about to be caught, the foreigner she had bumped into suddenly covered her mouth. But the police were still closing in on their location. The foreigner had to use a fire extinguisher to block their path. Then he dragged her into a nearby hotel. Sujin asked warily what kind of person he was. The foreigner spoke fluent Korean, telling her to behave herself. He said if she wanted to escape the police, she had to do as he said. After checking into a room, the foreigner told Sujin to change her clothes. While he sat down on a chair and removed his disguise, Sujin was shocked by this sight and asked who he really was.
나? 내가 못 믿으면 혼자 알아서 행동하시든가.
At the same time, the police also chased them to the hotel, and told the landlady to take them to the foreigner's room for a search immediately. The landlady complained that there were too many people impersonating police officers these days, and that if she let them search her guests' rooms arbitrarily, she would lose all her business. The police were left utterly speechless. After much persuasion, the landlady finally agreed to take them upstairs to search. Just then, Sujin and the man were about to go downstairs. When they saw the police approaching, the man quickly pressed Sujin against the wall, telling her to look at him affectionately. With the landlady's help, Sujin and the man managed to escape. The man sighed in relief, saying that they could finally relax. Sujin asked him about his true identity, but the man still refused to answer. Instead, he demanded that she treat him to a meal as a reward for saving her. Sujin was exasperated, but she complied anyway. On the way, the man asked her why she was running from the police. How could Sujin easily tell him that she was a counterfeiter? She took him to a seaside restaurant. The man ate a whole bowl of hangover soup. After finishing his meal, he recited Sujin's personal information with pinpoint accuracy. He even knew that when Sujin was little, her father had suffered from an incurable illness, and her mother couldn't bear the reality and ran away secretly. At the age of only 12, Sujin became an orphan. She had to move to the slums to survive. Only a handful of people knew about these things. Sujin demanded to know what his motives were.
완벽한 도안의 위조 방지 장치 정교하고 홀로그램의 집회 샤일까지 훌륭한.
The man praised Sujin's counterfeit money as being almost perfect, saying that it had caught his attention a few weeks ago. That was why he had been following her secretly, to see if Sujin was qualified to be his partner. Upon hearing this, Sujin stood up and left at once, because she couldn't trust a complete stranger. But the man wasn't willing to give up on partnering with her, so he went on to talk about the things that had happened to Sujin after she grew up. When she was 18 years old, by chance, Sujin met Irene, the daughter of Master Yang, a master counterfeiter. After going home with her, Master Yang felt a strong connection with her and took her on as his personal disciple. After learning that Master Yang was drowning in debt, Sujin started making and selling counterfeit money to repay him. It could be said that the man knew everything about Sujin. Sujin grabbed him by the collar in anger.
작든 크든 범죄 세계에 발 들여놨잖아. 피 한 방울 안 섞인 그 가족을 위해서.
The man thought that Sujin's previous way of doing things was far too inefficient. He said she had no idea how long it would take her to earn enough money, so he hoped that they could team up to pull off one big heist and then retire for good. Then the man laid out his plan. He wanted Soo Jin to counterfeit $300,100 bills. Soo Jin would be in charge of counterfeiting the money and cooperate with him, a mastermind of criminal plans, to swap the $30 million worth of counterfeit money for real US dollars in a top-secret switch. This amounted to a staggering 30 billion won. Soo Jin's eyes widened in shock. The most tempting part was that the man offered to split the profits evenly with her. With this sum of money, Soo Jin and Master Yang's family would no longer have to struggle to make ends meet, nor would they have to grovel to debt collectors for more time to pay back the money. Soo Jin was truly tempted. In the evening, Irene cooked noodles at home. When she was done, she called her father and sister to come eat. But Soo Jin and Master Yang were busy discussing something. Upon learning that Soo Jin was planning to pull off a big heist, Master Yang thought it was totally unreliable. The key point was that they didn't know anything about that man. They didn't even know his name. The amount of counterfeit money involved was so huge, if they got caught by the police, Soo Jin would spend the rest of her life in prison. But Soo Jin was intent on taking on the job. Her reason was that working alone earned them too little money, far too slowly. It would be one thing if they couldn't pay back the debts they had incurred from being scammed. They would also be able to afford Master Yang's much-needed surgery fee. If he didn't get the surgery done this year, he would lose one of his legs. Soo Jin had always regarded Master Yang as family and couldn't bear to see him suffer. The two of them were in the middle of their argument, when suddenly, they heard a noise from upstairs made by Irene. It was clear that she had heard every word of their conversation, but she pretended not to have heard anything, and told her sister and father to come eat quickly. Around the dinner table, the family chatted animatedly. Soo Jin felt a surge of happiness and vowed to protect this happiness at all costs. After dinner, she went to wash up and found her sister tinkering with the computer again. Irene was a hacker with some incredibly wild dreams.
나 이것만 성공하면 미 국방부 서버 해킹한 최연소 해커 되는 거.
Soo Jin didn't want her sister messing around with this stuff. She threatened that if Irene kept fooling around like this, she would smash the computer to pieces right away. Irene had to go to bed, but Soo Jin couldn't fall asleep. She kept replaying the man's words in her mind. She was truly tempted, hoping to make a lot of money, to give her family a better life. The next day, Soo Jin went out for a morning jog, when a flamboyant man suddenly chased after her, shouting her name repeatedly. But Soo Jin was wearing headphones and couldn't hear a thing. The flamboyant man had to catch up and block her path. The chase had left him out of breath. He was too winded to talk, so he pulled out something for Soo Jin from his pocket. The message was simple. If Soo Jin wanted to hear the rest of the criminal mastermind's plan, he would come to meet her at the specified time. The note was signed with the initial J. After returning home, Soo Jin hoped Master Yang would agree to meet J, to hear his plan first, and if it sounded feasible, there was no harm in giving it a shot. But Master Yang had been burned by scams too many times before, and was convinced that everyone outside was a crook. As they were talking, Jay showed up at the door with his men. Seeing him carrying a suitcase, Master Yang asked what was inside. Jay said it was seed money, to buy materials and a large-scale printing press. Master Yang scoffed, saying they hadn't even agreed to cooperate yet, and that Jay was being far too presumptuous. Jay said nothing and opened the suitcase right away. At the sight of the stacks of cash inside, Master Yang's eyes widened in disbelief. He finally agreed to partner with Jay. They took Jay to tour their counterfeit money workshop, and Jay laid out his detailed plan. He knew of a casino that only catered to foreign guests. The casino had an enormous daily turnover. Swapping $40,000 a day would be slow, but it would be far less likely to get detected. Soo Jin would need to get a job at the casino to cooperate from the inside with the disguised Jay, using their counterfeit money to exchange for real cash at the casino. After hearing Jay's plan, Master Yang didn't hold back his praise. Calling Jay a meticulous planner, he agreed to work day and night to produce the counterfeit bills. Then Master Yang and Soo Jin got to work, pouring their heart and soul into drawing the designs, and successfully producing counterfeit money that could pass any bill detector. Once all the counterfeit money was printed, Soo Jin and Jay put their plan into action. 3 years later, they had finally exchanged all the counterfeit money for real cash. Jay asked Soo Jin to join him for a bowl of hangover soup. When they arrived at the seaside, Soo Jin asked him if he was going to disappear.
아유, 사라지다니. 영영 못 만나게 사라지는 거지. 언젠가 너 앞에 나타날 거야.
Then Jay asked Soo Jin what she wanted to do in the future. She replied, a criminal mastermind. Jay bluntly told her she didn't have what it takes, because she couldn't control her emotions and was too easy to read. But all jokes aside, when it came time to part ways, Soo Jin was reluctant to let him go. After all, they had worked together for 3 whole years. Jay could sense her reluctance, so he brushed his cheek against hers. Then he pulled out a carefully selected necklace. Somehow, Jay felt a strange sense of familiarity with Soo Jin, but he couldn't put his finger on why. Soo Jin snatched the necklace and put it on. Jay asked if she wanted to leave with him, but Soo Jin couldn't bear to leave Master Yang and Irene behind. Jay didn't press the issue, and instead left her with these words.
사기꾼 삶은 그래 가짜야.
He told Sujin not to trust anyone too easily, then Jay turned around and left without hesitation. Sujin didn't understand the special meaning behind his words. Late at night, she was about to drive home, when she suddenly received a call from Master Yang.
돈만 넘기면 눈 감아줄 수 있대.
아니, 경찰이 무슨 그런 전화를 해요?
She knew something terrible was about to happen. Sujin told him never to hand over the money they had, then hung up and raced back home. A few minutes later, Sujin saw a truck pass by on the road, completely unaware that it was carrying all the money they had earned. At the same time, the police received a tip-off, learning that Master Yang and Sujin had printed 300,000 counterfeit bills and swapped them for real money at the casino. Upon hearing the news, Chief ATE of the Narcotics Division immediately rushed to Master Yang's house, but he suddenly received an order to abort the mission before he arrived.
여기까지 뺑이 쳤는데 왜 중단을 해?
ATE flew into a rage, shouting curses and vowing that he would not stop the operation. His words had barely left his mouth when a loud explosion erupted behind him. Sujin's house had been blown up. Sujin was terrified and rushed inside to check on everyone, and seeing that Irene was unharmed, she told her to get away quickly. She herself ran back into the burning house to find Master Yang, but strangely enough, a familiar figure suddenly appeared in front of her. Sujin called out Jay's name instinctively, but the figure pulled its hand away from hers. So had Jay betrayed her all along? But why would he betray his own partner? Sujin didn't chase after him. She kept searching for Master Yang, and was horrified to find that he had been killed in the explosion. Overwhelmed by grief and helplessness, she cried as she tried to drag Master Yang out of the fire, but she didn't have enough strength. In the end, she had to leave alone, determined to kill Jay. But she was arrested by ATE, who had just arrived at the scene. On the other side, the truck delivered the $30 million to a man. Who exactly was this man? The next day, the man walked into an office at the police station. In fact, he was Jang Jong-hyuk, the captain of the police department's major crimes unit. Having just gotten his hands on such a huge sum of money for nothing, he felt that his days were looking brighter and brighter. At the same time, ATE was interrogating Sujin. After laying out all the details of Sujin and her group's crimes, he added a particularly cruel remark.
아주 드라마틱하게 성공했는데 성공 하루 만에 모두 빼앗겼네?
ATE wanted to know where the money had gone. Sujin said it had been taken by a masked man. He had used explosives to destroy all the criminal evidence. After making off with the money, he had framed her as the fall guy. What saddened Sujin the most was that Master Yang had died in the explosion. ATE asked for information about this man. When he learned that it was the infamous Jay, he was utterly shocked. This guy had warrants for his arrest in multiple countries, yet had never been caught. Time flew by, and we find ourselves on the streets of Seoul in 2021. 5 years had passed since Sujin's arrest, but what was puzzling was that the powerful Jang Jong-hyuk was running for his life in a state of utter disarray. Even after being hit by a car, he didn't stop running. He ran for a long time before daring to lean against something to catch his breath. And the man who had shot him 5 times to silence him was none other than Jay. After making sure he was dead, he stuffed a banknote into the man's mouth. What was he trying to convey by doing this? The scene shifts. The young Jay took a girl for a ride. The girl asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. He replied that he wanted to be a con artist. He didn't think there was any difference between himself and the rich. He hoped to live a fake life as if it were real. The scene cuts back to the present. ATE suddenly felt a bit hypoglycemic, so he ran to a fast food restaurant to buy something to eat. He noticed a traffic policeman about to give him a parking ticket for illegal parking. He quickly pulled out his medical records to prove that he was ill. He said that if he didn't get something to eat right away, a serious traffic accident might occur. After handing the ticket back to the policeman, ATE prepared to go home to rest. On the way, he received a message. The police station had received new information related to counterfeit money. They wanted ATE to come over and check it out. At the same time, the man who had been silenced by Jay was found, and the person in charge of the case was Jang Jong-hyuk. He arrived late and went to check on the deceased. His subordinate quickly handed him the banknote, and he took a close look at it. Jang Jong-hyuk's expression became very complicated. On the other side, ATE arrived at the bar to investigate. The bartender handed him a strange 50,000 won banknote. He wanted to know if it was counterfeit, but ATE examined it for a long time, even taking out a UV light, yet couldn't figure out whether the banknote in his hand was real or fake. Staring at it endlessly wasn't going to solve the problem. ATE decided to take the banknote with him and leave. Just as he was about to get in his car, he noticed that a large screen nearby was broadcasting an urgent news report. The report was about a man's body found in an alley, shot 5 times. 2 weeks later, ATE was tearing his hair out over the strange banknote. He asked his colleague in charge of the forensic analysis if there was any conclusion yet. His colleague said he wanted to know which master counterfeiter had made this banknote. This banknote was no ordinary counterfeit. It could not only pass a bill detector, but also passed infrared scanning and chemical tests with flying colors. It even had intaglio printing. It was definitely a high-precision counterfeit note, a super note. ATE had a feeling that something big was about to happen. He was eager to go and investigate, but his colleague told him to hold on. As he spoke, he pulled out the counterfeit bill that Jang Jong-hyuk had sent over. ATE took a glance and recognized it as the counterfeit money that Soo-jin and her group had made 5 years ago. His colleague said that this counterfeit bill was different from the newly emerged one. It didn't have intaglio printing. Moreover, it had been found in the mouth of the man who had been shot 5 times not long ago. The scene shifts. Jang Jong-hyuk's underling, Ki-jae, arrived at his own martial arts gym. He wandered around briefly, then received a call from Jang Jong-hyuk. So he quickly took a woman to the lounge. Jang Jong-hyuk told him to go get something. Ki-jae moved the air conditioner aside and climbed into the basement. What was unexpected was that there was a drug factory hidden here. Dr. Choi, who was in charge of manufacturing the drugs, quickly handed over the goods to Ki-jae when he saw him. Ki-jae took the goods to report back to Jang Jong-hyuk. Jang Jong-hyuk was satisfied. On the other side, ATE reported the situation to his superior. Back in 1989, a large number of counterfeit $100 bills were seized in the Philippines. The United States was beside itself with anxiety, because the appraisal found that those counterfeit bills were almost indistinguishable from real ones. The United States gave these counterfeit bills a special name, supernotes, and the 50,001 bill they had found recently was also a supernote. The reason was that this supernote had been printed using an intaglio printing press, but the problem was that intaglio printing presses were all controlled by the state. Furthermore, the design blueprints were top secret. So how had this supernote been produced? ATE said that 5 years ago, they had seized a large amount of counterfeit money worth $30 million at a casino. And the same kind of counterfeit money had recently been found in the mouth of the shot man. Coincidentally, the time when he received the tip about the suspicious 50,001 bill was the same day the man was shot and killed. This was most likely information that had been deliberately leaked. Judging from the bar's surveillance footage, ATE suspected that Jay had reappeared.
만일 제가 요판인 세기를 손에 넣었다면 이 $100 위조 지표는 제2의 메시지임이 틀림없습니다.
The superior felt a splitting headache. To this day, no one had ever caught the elusive Jay, and now Jay had reappeared, this time with supernotes in tow. What exactly was his scheme? In any case, the superior thought the case had to be investigated thoroughly, so he ordered ATE to team up with Chief Ian to handle the case. Ian immediately objected upon hearing this. He was the chief of the Financial Crimes Division, but ATE had been demoted because of a mistake he made 5 years ago. Now he was just a low-level clerk doing menial tasks. How could the two of them be paired up? The superior said that ATE had worked tirelessly over the years, and had never given up on catching the fugitive Jay. He had a wealth of information and experience under his belt. He was the best candidate for the case. Ian was extremely unconvinced. After walking out of the office, he kept mocking ATE for being scheming, saying that ATE was always sucking up to the higher-ups, and now he had suddenly become Ian's equal. ATE didn't bother arguing with him about it. He just smiled and said thank you before turning to leave. Ian got even angrier. He demanded to know if ATE was trying to use underhanded tactics to get his old chief position back.
그런 작은 자리에 연연하는 그런 쪼잔한 놈 아니니.
The next day, ATE went to Jang Jong-hyuk's territory to ask about the case. He wanted to find out the identity of the man who had died that day. The detective from the Major Crimes Unit said the man's name was Jason. He was the leader of a drug trafficking ring. Not long ago, he had received some new information about a batch of extremely potent drugs. Jason had wanted to get his hands on it, but the supplier only accepted orders worth over 50 billion won.
성능이 아무리 좋아도 그렇지 완전 미친놈이네.
Jason had been frustrated because he didn't have that much money. Then one of his underlings had approached him and asked if he had heard of Jay. He had also said that Jay was willing to help Jason out.
제이가 그 명약에 500억 투자할 생각이 있다고 합니다.
ATE was shocked to hear this. At this moment, the detective from the Major Crimes Unit added more details. He said that Jay had later sent a broker to negotiate the deal. Jay was willing to put down 25 billion won as a deposit up front. Upon hearing this, ATE believed that Jay was definitely trying to pull the same trick again, money laundering through drugs. And the money he was laundering was counterfeit to boot. But was he actually right? In reality, on the day of the negotiation, not only was the broker present, Jay had been sitting in his car the entire time. He hadn't shown his face at all. Instead, he had the broker show Jason the money they had brought. Jason had leaned forward excitedly, savoring the smell of the cash. Then he had demanded to check if the bills were real or fake, because he wasn't an idiot. He had heard about what Jay had done 5 years ago. The broker had impatiently told him to check all he wanted, then it would be time to sign the cooperation agreement. but they had suddenly changed the location of the signing at the last minute. Furthermore, Jason had been ambushed and killed, shot 5 times in total. ATE wanted to know where the signing was supposed to take place. When he heard that it was at a dock, ATE thought back to that unforgettable night 5 years ago. He then rushed out in excitement and quickly called Ian. He said he knew where Jay was hiding after committing the murder.
오는 중에 달러 지적한 아지트를 그대로 쓰고 있는 것 같아. 지금 당장 애들 데리고 인천 컨테이너부 들어와.
Ian demanded to know what right ATE had to order him around. ATE hadn't expected that to be Ian's main concern. He quickly changed his tone and begged Ian to rush to the designated meeting spot. Even though Ian was easily annoyed, he still knew how to prioritize things. After hanging up the phone, he immediately gathered his team and set out on the mission. It wasn't long before they arrived at Sujin's bombed-out house and quickly rushed into the basement with guns drawn. They found clear signs that someone had been living there, but Jay was nowhere to be found. What's more, there was no trace of a printing press either, because the person who had been living there wasn't Jay, it was Sujin, who had been released from prison. Was Jay trying to frame her as the fall guy again? At this moment, ATE was seething with anger at having come up empty-handed. He had thought that this time he would finally be one step ahead and catch Jay, but once again, he had lost. In the face of Ian's mockery, ATE drove away in silence. On the other side, Sujin drove to the container loading and unloading area. She seemed to be waiting for someone, but no one showed up. No matter how long she waited, frustrated, she smoked several cigarettes. She was just about to light another one, when something suddenly blocked the light above her head. But Sujin was lucky enough to survive. She even took the initiative to go to the police station to find ATE. When ATE sought his old acquaintance, he complained that it was all Sujin's fault that he had been demoted so drastically. He had thought that Sujin would have aged a lot under the mental torment, but for some reason, she still looked young and beautiful. Sujin couldn't tell if he was insulting her or complimenting her. She hated it when ATE beat around the bush like this. She told him to just say whatever he had to say.
말싸가지가 곧따위니까 하늘에서 컨테이너가 떨어지고 막 그러는 거야.
Directly, Sujin told ATE to cut the crap. Wasn't he curious about who she had met? ATE knew the person Sujin was talking about was Jay. He said anxiously that Jay had really come back. Now all the people involved in the counterfeit money case 5 years ago were showing up one after another. ATE didn't know if all of this was a coincidence, or if every step had been part of Jay's plan all along. Sujin said that the person who had left the counterfeit bill in Jason's mouth must have been Jay. But the question was, Jason's identity had always been confidential. How did Sujin know who he was?
내가 너무 많은 걸 알아서 그래서 죽이려는 거겠지.
Sujin said the reason she had come here to find ATE was simple. She wanted to survive. ATE found this hilarious. It was Sujin who had helped make the counterfeit money 5 years ago. He figured that she was also the one who had made the new 50,001 super notes. ATE knew that she resented him for arresting her and sending her to prison, but that she hated Jay even more for killing Master Yang. But why was Sujin helping her sworn enemy? He wanted to know why the super notes were being produced.
말하면 나 보호해 줄 거야? 내 목숨 지켜줄 거냐고.
ATE gave her a definite answer, but Sujin was afraid that the tragedy from 5 years ago would repeat itself. But on second thought, she had no one else she could trust. She promised to tell ATE everything she knew. At the same time, a man named Yugyu was walking home drunk. Suddenly someone bumped into him. The person even called him by his name accurately. Yugyu thought it was an acquaintance, so he took a closer look, only to realize he didn't know the person. But the stranger insisted on being friendly, then took advantage of his unawareness to knock him out with a sedative. Then he dragged Yugyu to a car and drove away with him. Before long, Yugyu found himself lying on an operating table. A doctor used a tool to pry his eyes open. It seemed like they were using his pupils to unlock some kind of access permission. And the mastermind behind all of this was still Jay.
슬슬 시작해볼까? 슈퍼노트 게임을.
That wraps up the first 2 episodes of Villains. Luckily, the timeline of this drama starts in 2013. Otherwise, in this day and age of digital payments, the market for counterfeit money would be extremely small. Next, not only are the male lead and female lead completely incompatible, but why does she have to be the one getting tricked all the time? Could it be that there will be a chasing wife finale plot later on? The main thing is, the male lead used to play with a little girl when he was young. Could that girl have been Sujin? A lot of people don't understand what the male lead really wants, but it's actually quite easy to figure out. He wants to get his hands on the supernote manufacturing technology. He wants to eliminate everyone who knows the truth. That includes his underlings, Master Yang, and so on, and having the supernotes alone isn't enough for him. His ambition is huge. He wants to build a criminal empire that covers counterfeit money, money laundering, and drug trafficking. To put it simply, he's not good looking and he's a terrible person. That's all for today's commentary. If you enjoyed my commentary, please subscribe to my channel. Your support is my greatest motivation. See you next time. Master counterfeiter Sujin has to cooperate with the police. Jack asks her about the super counterfeit bills. She says she went back to her old trade 4 months ago. After getting paid, she went to a money exchange. The clerk mentions that cash is being used less and less nowadays. There are only 2 master counterfeiters left, who export fake money overseas. Sujin can't figure out who else it could be besides herself. The clerk looks utterly incredulous.
연희? 응, 연희 인연이 진짜 죽여버려.
Sometime later, Soyeon arrives. At the money exchange, the clerk keeps winking at her, telling her to look in the mirror. When she sees that it's her sister Sujin standing behind her, Soyeon knows she's done for. She's called outside by her sister for questioning about where those counterfeit bills came from. Soyeon says they are all left behind by Master Yang. The reason she sold them to China is for revenge. She wants to lure out Jae through this matter. Sujin wears a worried look on her face, saying that she has also been making Hong Kong dollars ever since she got out of prison. But Jae didn't take the bait at all. But now that she has reunited with Soyeon, she thinks the two of them might be able to cooperate. Using Soyeon's hacking skills, Soyeon asks her why she didn't come to her earlier. Of course Sujin wanted to. She really didn't want to drag her sister into this mess. Right after that, Sujin takes Soyeon to meet a broker. This man has had 10 years of business dealings with Jae. It can be said that he knows Jae quite well. Besides, the broker has no morals whatsoever, so he's the perfect person to ask for help. Sujin found out there's a man named Jang Jong-hyuk on Jae's client list. She wants to know what kind of collusion the two of them have. The broker doesn't understand why they have to investigate Jang Jong-hyuk specifically. This guy isn't someone to be messed with. Sujin says that Master Yang's death 5 years ago was exactly the doing of Jae and Jang Jong-hyuk. Together, she intends to sow discord between the two men. As she speaks, she tells Soyeon to show them quickly. Soyeon, full of confidence, gets ready to hack into Jang Jong-hyuk's cryptocurrency wallet. But after trying for a while, she actually closes the computer. The broker tells her to go home and practice for a few more years. But Soyeon says she actually succeeded a long time ago. The broker is utterly impressed by her and hurries to ask how much money she stole. Soyeon calmly says it's 30 billion won. The broker is already thinking about how much he can get a cut of.
근데 싹 다 증발시켰는데?
The broker is extremely distraught, but how could she just throw away so much money like that? In the afternoon, the broker gets in touch with Jae. He asks if there are any jobs available lately. The other party tells him to go to Macau. As soon as Jae agrees, he quickly calls Sujin and excitedly says that the fish has taken the bait. Later, the broker takes a plane to Macau. As soon as he lands, he heads to a casino and plays a few rounds of games first. He's just complaining about his terrible luck. When Jae suddenly appears behind him, the broker quickly pulls him aside to chat. Jae takes out a roll of counterfeit bills, and also brings up the things Sujin has done to find him.
네 영업 철학이 돈 더 주는 고객이 있으면 덜 주는 고객의 뒤통수를 갈게 된 자다. 어?
Jae doesn't blame the broker at all. Instead, he offers the broker a price he can't refuse. The broker is bribed in an instant. Even though Jae knows full well that Sujin is trying to lure him back, he still takes a plane back to South Korea. After landing smoothly, Jae goes to an underground fight club to meet Jang Jong-hyuk. The latter is furious that all his cryptocurrency is gone, and blames Jae for it. Jae looks at his serious expression. Instead of being scared, he bursts out laughing loudly. Jang Jong-hyuk is enraged. He roars, asking why so many wealthy people let Jae handle their money, while only his money has vanished into thin air. He wants to teach Jae a lesson, but Jae still doesn't take it. Seriously, he thinks it's unnecessary to lose his temper over such a small sum of money. Jang Jong-hyuk knows that Jae deals with all the top billionaires, which is why he looks down on those 30 billion won.
하지만 내 돈 300억은 개척 같은 짓 하면서 목숨 걸고.
Jae still has a big smile on his face, telling Jang Jong-hyuk to read the documents first, before deciding whether to blame him or not. As soon as Jang Jong-hyuk sees that there's a new way to make money, one that can earn back the 30 billion won with interest in a short time, and even leave a lot of extra profit, his anger disappears immediately. The two are chatting, when the broker behind them turns on a specially modified lighter, which allows Sujin to hear their conversation clearly.
그래, 5년 전처럼 제이가 장준혁을 다시 끌어들였어. 그럼 그 다음은 기술자인 너를 찾아갔을 거고.
Sujin nods her head. Jack wants to know what Jae has done afterward, how he managed to get Sujin to cooperate with her enemy, to make super counterfeit bills, and what the circulation plan is. Sujin suddenly falls silent. After a few seconds, she says she's very tired and wants to rest. Jack is completely defeated. He has to act based on the information available so far, and plans to investigate Jang Jong-hyuk's underground fight club. National Intelligence Service Section Chief Hank asks him if he really believes Sujin's words. Jack shouts that if he really believed her, he wouldn't be thinking about verifying it. On the way to the fight club, his subordinate finds out that the club has been open for 5 years, and has a daily betting turnover of hundreds of millions of won.
관할서 이 새끼들 그렇게 큰 불법 도합판을 단 한 번도 안 쳤다 이거지?
Realizing that the Fight Club really has powerful backers, Jack orders his team to notify the Incheon Metropolitan Investigation Unit to take action first. Whether Jang Jong-hyuk is there or not, this illegally operated Fight Club must be raided. At the same time, no one inside the Fight Club knows that the police are coming soon. They notice two drug addicts loitering in the bathroom and refusing to leave. The staff immediately throw them out. The two men don't say anything. They glance forward casually and spot a stunningly beautiful woman waving at them. The two men smirk and quickly follow her. Kevin, a police officer from the Incheon Major Crimes Unit, is hanging out at the Fight Club. He's on Jang Jong-hyuk's payroll. He receives the operation notice from the police station. Scared out of his wits, he hurries to contact Charlie. Charlie knows that Jang Jong-hyuk is still in the private room. He plans to call Jang Jong-hyuk to tell him to run away, but Jang Jong-hyuk is busy with something important, so he doesn't hear his phone ringing at all. At this moment, Kevin goes outside the Fight Club and complains that he hasn't won any money yet. As he's talking, the police officers from the station arrive. Kevin complains that he has been waiting here for a long time. His colleagues don't understand how he got here so quickly. Kevin lies and says he was just nearby and rushed over as soon as he got the message. With that, he leads the others to charge inside. Once they get there, a police officer grabs a microphone and shouts for everyone to squat down and not move. When everyone sees the police arriving, they think to themselves that they just lost a lot of money and were looking for a place to vent their anger. So they pick up weapons one after another and attack the police, hoping to create chaos and escape in the confusion. The scene descends into chaos in an instant. At this moment, Charlie rushes into the private room in a panic. As soon as he enters, he sees that Jang Jong-hyuk's woman is dead. He doesn't understand what just happened. Suddenly, the nearby storage shelf collapses. Then the drug addict walks out holding Jang Jong-hyuk hostage, shouting that the beautiful woman is his. Jang Jong-hyuk is so angry that his teeth are clenched. He didn't expect to run into such a situation, so he shouts insults at the drug addict. After speaking, he winks at Charlie. Charlie understands his meaning immediately. He quickly starts talking to distract the drug addict's attention. At this moment, the drug addict tries to grab a knife again, but Jang Jong-hyuk steps on his wrist hard, and then launches a furious attack on him. Still not satisfied, Jang Jong-hyuk takes out a pistol from the cabinet. The drug addict sobers up instantly. Seeing this, Charlie tries to stop him. The thing is, the police are still outside. If they get caught, things will get really messy. But Jang Jong-hyuk has never been humiliated like this since he was a kid. He warns Charlie that if he tries to stop him again, he'll blow his head off. Charlie shuts up aggrievedly, but Jang Jong-hyuk doesn't actually kill the drug addict. He runs to check on the other drug addict, only to find that his woman has been stabbed to death. Now that there's a murder, they have to come up with a proper solution. At the same time, Jack arrives at the Fight Club with his team and finds the place in utter disarray. Kevin looks extremely guilty. Jack realizes that Sujin wasn't lying. This place is indeed Jang Jong-hyuk's territory. In order to look for clues here, he tells his subordinates to search carefully. Jang Jong-hyuk, in order to clear his name, starts making up a story for the drug addicts, telling them to admit that they broke in to steal alcohol, and that they got greedy when they saw only a woman was in the room. Originally, Jang Jong-hyuk didn't want to kill anyone else, but some people just had to court death. He has no choice but to feed the two drug addicts, making it look like they killed each other after taking drugs. Jack hears faint screams, so he quickly follows the sound and discovers that the Fight Club has other hidden rooms. He quickly pulls out his gun and searches cautiously inside. At this moment, Jang Jong-hyuk has already stabbed the man to death frantically, then hands the knife to the other drug addict, telling him to remember to confess his crime to the police. If he doesn't do as he says, his fate will be even worse than the dead man on the floor. After giving all the instructions, Jang Jong-hyuk tells Charlie to clean up the scene. Before calling the police, Charlie suddenly remembers that he has something important to say, and confesses that the National Intelligence Service just raided their Fight Club. Jang Jong-hyuk demands to know why he didn't say anything earlier. Charlie is helpless, saying that he wasn't given a chance to speak. At this moment, Jang Jong-hyuk looks warily at the door, trying to figure out how to escape. Scared out of his wits, Jang Jong-hyuk pushes the air conditioner aside and escapes to the basement, telling everyone to move to a new location immediately. Later, they successfully escape through the sewer. Jack can't find Jang Jong-hyuk, so he has to make Charlie talk. But why would Charlie cooperate? After escaping, Jang Jong-hyuk meets Kevin. Kevin says that the National Intelligence Service is demanding a thorough check of the surveillance footage, and that he'll definitely be exposed, hoping that Jang Jong-hyuk can find a way to save him. but to avoid getting dragged down, Jang Jong-hyuk tells him to turn himself in to the police immediately.
형님 저 이번에 진짜 진급 케이스인 거 아시지 않습니까? 형님 뒤에 있는 백으로 저 좀 어떻게 해달라는 거죠?
Jang Jong-hyuk tells Kevin to forget about getting a promotion, saying that he'll help reduce his prison sentence to the shortest possible, saying that this is already the best possible outcome. The mole from the National Intelligence Service calls Jang Jong-hyuk, saying that he never expected Soo-jin to know about the Fight Club. In order to gather more information, the mole deliberately goes into the interrogation room to pack up his things, but has to leave after finishing packing. Meanwhile, Soo-jin continues to talk about the super counterfeit bills. She says that 3 months ago, she noticed someone following her, so she hastily grabbed a weapon and attacked the man. Hugged her immediately. She took a closer look and realized it was Jay. Jay praises Soo-jin for even being able to counterfeit Hong Kong dollars, and suggests that they team up for a big score. Soo-jin asks a soul-searching question, questioning whether Jay will betray her again. Jay says that he wasn't the one behind the warehouse explosion 5 years ago. Of course Soo-jin doesn't believe him. Jay tells the broker to bring the money over. He says that the portion of the money that belongs to Soo-jin has been sitting in a bank collecting interest this whole time, and he never had any ulterior motives, and cash will be replaced by virtual currency. So he suggests pulling off one last big heist, making exquisite super counterfeit bills. With that, Jay leaves first. After getting in the car, he tells the broker to remember to bring So-yeon along. If they want the plan to go smoothly, he needs So-yeon's hacking skills. The next day, the Soo-jin sisters meet with Jay. Jay pretends to be unaware and asks Soo-jin why she brought other people. Soo-jin replies that banknote verification technology has improved a lot these days. Authenticity is verified through serial numbers, and So-yeon is a hacker. She can hack into the server of the mint to obtain the serial numbers. Jay hopes that everyone can cooperate smoothly. Then he starts explaining the plan. He'll use 50 billion won worth of counterfeit bills to buy drugs worth 200 billion won, then sell the drugs to different mafia groups. Overseas, they can earn 200 billion won once the deal is done. Jay will only take 60% of the profit. Soo-jin agrees to cooperate, but she needs an intaglio printing press. Jay knows that Soo-jin wants to find Mary, who is a professional printer, and says that Mary has been researching intaglio printing presses for the past 5 years, and he believes she has successfully mastered the technology. Later, Jay takes Soo-jin to find her. They arrive at Mary's printing shop. Jay asks how the preparations are going. Mary tells them to follow her into the private room, and shows them the fruit of her years of research. Now that the printing press is ready, Soo-jin starts drawing right away, and finishes the template in no time. Then she starts mixing the colors, while Soo-jin is busy. So-yeon isn't idle either, and she gets the serial numbers sorted out in a short time. With everyone's cooperation, the first batch of super counterfeit bills is born. Then comes mass production. Mary's machines run around the clock, and they finally end up with a room full of super counterfeit bills. On the night the 50 billion won worth of super counterfeit bills are printed, So-yeon insists on going out for drinks to celebrate. In the meantime, Soo-jin quietly takes Jay's wallet and replaces all the real bills inside with super counterfeit ones. When it's time to pay the bill, all the money Jay takes out is counterfeit. This is exactly what Soo-jin wanted. After waiting for 2 weeks, she calls the National Intelligence Service to report someone using counterfeit money, but after hanging up, she finds Jay right beside her. Jay wastes no time in imprisoning her and So-yeon. She thought Jay was going to kill them, but unexpectedly, Jay uses So-yeon to force Soo-jin to do more work. Later, they print a lot more super counterfeit bills, including the initial 50 billion won. The total amount adds up to 500 billion won. On the day the printing is finished, Jay takes the counterfeit bills and So-yeon to a new location. After all, So-yeon is more useful to him, and the next day, Soo-jin is summoned to a meeting at the dock. Then a shipping container crashes down. Soo-jin sighs with relief that she's lucky to be alive, and still has the chance to expose Jay's evil deeds. Jack learns that the super counterfeit bills are probably still being printed. He's beside himself with anxiety, and offers to help remove Soo-jin and So-yeon's names from the case files.
그리고 너 한국 뜬 다음에 수배 내려고. 어때?
At the same time, Jay calls So-yeon aside alone and says that Soo-jin has been taken to the National Intelligence Service. Jang Jong-hyuk will definitely not let her off the hook. To protect Soo-jin and everyone else, Jay wants to use the powerful figure behind Jang Jong-hyuk, and this matter requires So-yeon's technical assistance. The powerful figure behind Jang Jong-hyuk is having a meeting. This man is Mike, the president of Myeong-sung Savings Bank. He asks the presidential candidate to help him climb higher in his career. But the presidential candidate isn't happy, because Mike was supposed to hand over the election funds, but the raid on the Fight Club has made it impossible to raise the money in a short time. After the meeting ends, James, the prosecutor of the Seoul District Prosecutor's Office, walks out, and asks Mike why he still keeps Jang Jong-hyuk, that useless man, around.
그래도 자금 생산 쪽에서는 무에서 유를 창조하는 아주
탁월한 놈입니다.
James says he will give Jang Jong-hyuk one last chance. If he still fails to get things done, he'll have to be kicked out. Mike says he will have a good talk with Jang Jong-hyuk, then he goes to the living room, emphasizing that this is a critical period, a higher position is within reach, he needs to seize it firmly, and the prerequisite is that Jang Jong-hyuk doesn't cause any more trouble. But the problem now is, the casino is gone and the overseas drug sales have also been affected. Where can they get the money? Jang Jong-hyuk takes out the document given by Jae, and says there's a new way to make money, super counterfeit bills. At the same time, Jack is already driven crazy, he can't figure out Jae's next move at all. How on earth will Jae circulate as much as 500 billion won worth of super counterfeit bills? As he's thinking, the mole tells him that there's new progress in the case. There are bullet fragments in the leg of the drug addict from the casino, which belong to a type of gun that isn't common in South Korea. Upon hearing this, Jack quickly contacts the police, wanting to know what kind of bullet is in Ryan's body. They finally come to a conclusion, it's the same type as the one in the drug addict's leg. Jang Jong-hyuk agrees to cooperate with Jae, wanting to know what to do next. Jae takes him on a 7-kilometer hike on foot. After arriving at a bridge, Jae points forward, saying that decades ago, the construction of the elevated road ahead in Seoul wasn't to improve traffic as the official statement claimed. The real purpose was actually for war preparation. There are hidden tunnels and bunkers underneath. Jang Jong-hyuk is shocked beyond words. Jae continues to say that the tunnel is 30 meters underground, you only need to walk 7 kilometers from here, and you'll reach a place just a few meters away from KC Bank. KC Bank will have a full-scale relocation in 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, it will transport 2.25 trillion won along with the safe deposit boxes, stored by VIPs to the new building in 3 batches, and Jae's plan is to take the opportunity to steal 500 billion won from it, and then replace it with their counterfeit bills. Jang Jong-hyuk asks if it won't be discovered. Jae confidently takes out the super counterfeit bills he made. Jang Jong-hyuk is very surprised when he takes them, wondering if these aren't real bills. Jae smiles, and also says that for this plan, he specially hired someone to dig a secret tunnel from their current location to ensure they can reach the bank directly. Jang Jong-hyuk is afraid of being cheated. He demands to walk through the secret tunnel first. After finding that there's no problem, he shouts excitedly that Jae is simply a genius. Jack finds Soo-jin and asks if Jae killed Ryan. Soo-jin admits that it was indeed Jae, and that he used a proxy to do it. At that time, Jae was going to exchange super counterfeit bills for drugs. According to the plan, he told Ryan that there was over 100 billion won worth of goods in Jang Jong-hyuk's secret factory. If Ryan stole it according to his instructions, he could get 50 billion won in reward in some of the goods. Ryan agreed. He successfully entered the factory through the secret tunnel, according to Jae's instructions. Then he ran to make a deal with Jae. He fell right into the trap. Jae immediately called Jang Jong-hyuk and said that Ryan had stolen the goods. Enraged, Jang Jong-hyuk took his men and tracked down Ryan. But what's the use of knowing all this now? There's no evidence at all to prove that Jang Jong-hyuk committed murder. Jack asks Soo-jin if she has any other information. Soo-jin says the person who makes the drugs is called Dr. Choi. She's a mole planted by Jae beside Jang Jong-hyuk, and she doesn't just make drugs. She's also developing a chemical agent that can oxidize and corrode materials, but Soo-jin has no idea what it's specifically used for. However, Soo-jin secretly wrote down the chemical formula of the substance. At the same time, Jang Jong-hyuk checks the 500 billion won worth of super counterfeit bills. He exclaims that it is simply spectacular, and even picks up one bill to light a cigarette. This feeling is absolutely amazing. Jae takes the opportunity to say that he still needs a favor from him. Later, Jang Jong-hyuk goes to see Mike, knowing that the security company of his bank is the same as that of KC Bank. He hopes that Mike can interfere in the matter, and take the chance to plant their bribed men. In the cash escort team, Mike is very satisfied. Jang Jong-hyuk reveals an even more exciting piece of news, that is, he plans to get rid of Jae after they succeed, and seize the 500 billion won all for himself. But what he doesn't know is that Dr. Choi has found Jae. She confesses that Jang Jong-hyuk ordered her to make poison gas bombs. It seems that he plans to seize all the real cash. The National Intelligence Service finds out that the formula Soo-jin wrote down corresponds to a type of fiber.
섬유지질을 산화 부식시키는
집행 종이가 아니야. 섬유야.
Jack suddenly realizes what's going on. Jae is going to process the super counterfeit bills into damaged ones. But what's the reason for this? Frustrated, Jack goes out for a meal, and glances at the recycling waste by chance.
슈퍼노트 5천억을 해시페로 만든 다음에 한국은행에 교환 신청을 하면
After this operation, the super counterfeit bills will be shredded and destroyed, and Jae will get newly printed genuine bills in return, obtaining the real money without anyone noticing. And this is actually just Plan B formulated by Jae. Upon hearing this, Hank hurries back to investigate, and finds out that recently only Myung-sung's savings bank has approved an application to exchange 500 billion won worth of damaged banknotes. Hank originally wants to call it off, but to catch Jay, Jack hopes that they can pretend to know nothing, and then catch Jay red-handed on the day of the exchange. Jay calls Jang Jong-hyuk, and says that to prevent him from playing tricks, he specially chooses to take action before KC Bank's last cash transport. But this isn't set in stone. He might activate Plan B temporarily. Jang Jong-hyuk is extremely angry, and quickly calls the mole in the National Intelligence Service, telling him to investigate the real purpose behind Sujin's surrender. He suspects that this matter is also a trick played by Jay. A few days later, the day of the operation arrives. Jack leads his men to keep an eye on Myeong-sung Savings Bank, and after spotting the banknotes to be destroyed, they immediately rush forward to make the arrest. But Jay is nowhere to be seen in the elevator. This means that Jay has activated Plan A, choosing to replace the real cash in KC Bank with super counterfeit bills. As early as a week ago, Jay secretly took Soyeon into KC Bank. With her around, she can not only tamper with the surveillance system, but also easily obtain the password to the vault door. Of course, the password alone isn't enough. Earlier, they also captured Yoogyu, the head of security at KC Bank, and obtained his iris information, and Yoogyu was so drunk that night that he has no idea about what happened. On the day of the operation, following the reconnaissance done beforehand, Jay leads his men to successfully enter the vault, and then starts their money-switching plan. At this moment, Jack glances at the newspaper and finds out that KC Bank is going to transport a large amount of cash, and suddenly realizes that something is wrong. So he quickly calls Yoogyu, and learns that the cash transport will take place in the afternoon. He orders Yoogyu to suspend the cash transport, and to check the condition of the vault immediately, telling him to wait for them to arrive before doing anything else. After hanging up the phone, Yoogyu checks the surveillance footage carefully, and finds nothing unusual. But to be on the safe side, he quickly takes his men downstairs to check things out. But the elevator is going down way too slowly. By the time they arrive, Jay and his men have already finished their work. Spotting the incoming men, Jay hurries to hide in the lounge. One of his men stays outside the door to distract them. Yoogyu asks what is going on. The man lies and says that his partner suddenly has a stomachache and rushed into the lounge in a hurry. Yoogyu wants to check it out. There are no female staff at all in KC Bank's security department. If Soyeon and Mary are exposed, everything will be ruined. In this critical moment, Jay makes a noise to draw the others over. Yoogyu looks carefully.
수송요원은 항상 모자 착용.
Jay smiles and says that he forgot. Yoogyu doesn't make a fuss about it. He only says that the transport time has been postponed, telling them to wait in the lounge. If they have nothing else to do, then he takes his men inside to check the condition of the vault, and Jay and his men take the chance to slip away quickly. Jack passes by them but doesn't recognize Jay, the man he's trying to catch. After meeting Yoogyu, Jack asks about the relevant situation. He gets the address of the new bank. Then he follows to check the cash. Yoogyu says that he has checked and everything is fine. He also tells his subordinates to hurry up and load the banknotes onto the truck. Jack has a feeling that there might be counterfeit bills inside, so he asks Yoogyu to get him a few to check. But Yugyu's inspection is probably just a superficial one. After checking, he actually says there's nothing wrong. Hank thinks that they are probably tricked by Sujin. Maybe there's no such thing as 500 billion won worth of super counterfeit bills at all. But what exactly is going on here? At the same time, the broker and Mary split up to act according to Jay's instructions. The broker takes his men to continue through the tunnel. On the way, they indeed run into Charlie, who's deploying poison gas bombs. They are well prepared and also put on gas masks. Charlie is completely confused when he sees this. But now that things have come to this, they have to fight. A fierce fight breaks out between the two sides. In order to help Jay rescue her sister, Soyeon helps hack the surveillance cameras and traffic lights along the transport route. When the transport truck enters the tunnel, Soyeon immediately controls the traffic lights, causing severe traffic congestion along the way. Just then, Mary climbs out of the sewer. She spots the target truck and quickly climbs under it. She finally succeeds in getting into the armored truck, prying open the lock and obtaining a small USB drive. At this moment, Charlie's men fight bravely and successfully clear all obstacles. They take the 500 billion won worth of banknotes to find Jang Jong-hyuk. Jang Jong-hyuk is extremely satisfied with this, planning to seize the 500 billion won all for himself. The broker slips away when he sees that the situation is bad during the fight. He tells the news that the money has been seized. Soyeon is furious and asks how they can save her sister now. The atmosphere at the scene falls into a deathly silence. Seeing this, Mary takes out the USB drive.
저 USB가 그렇게 가치 있는 거예요?
입양할 때 이걸로 협박해서
The Broker asks who they are going to blackmail. Jay replies, the director of the National Intelligence Service. A security guard calls Jack and says that the cash has been safely delivered to the destination, but one of the vault boxes belonging to the VIP clients is missing. Jack wants to know who the owner of the box is. He's told that the owner is Mike, from Myeong-sung Savings Bank. At this moment, Mike finds out that his vault box has been stolen. He quickly calls Jang Jong-hyuk, but unexpectedly, no one answers the phone. He's wondering if this guy has become too arrogant. Suddenly, Jack comes to see him, wanting to know what's inside Mike's vault box. Mike says that it's definitely something very important. Realizing that Mike is unwilling to tell him, Jack is about to leave. Before leaving, he tentatively asks if Mike knows Jang Jong-hyuk. Mike smiles and brushes it off. The director of the National Intelligence Service summons his subordinate, saying that he has received a document about the EG Social Circle. Inside the EG Social Circle are nothing but high-level political figures.
친일 후손들이 많이 포함되어 있다고.
The director says that in the document he received, it's confessed that someone has got Mike's USB drive, which contains the list of EG Social Circle members and their misdeeds. It also mentions that they laundered money through KC Bank, with the amount reaching as much as 500 billion won. If the contents of the USB drive are exposed, the country will be thrown into utter chaos. The subordinate is confused and asks if the situation is really that serious. The director says that his position is only considered mid-tier within the circle. The members of the EG Social Circle are absolutely furious, questioning Mike why he put the data into a USB drive, asking if he doesn't trust everyone. Mike comes clean right away. He knows full well that he was allowed to join the circle only because he could raise money for the candidates' elections, but once he loses his value one day, won't he end up being discarded like a pawn? That's why he had to keep an ace up his sleeve this way. And as for why things have gone wrong now, he thinks it's all Jang Jong-hyuk's doing. This guy not only seized the 500 billion won all for himself, but also managed to steal his USB drive. To find this guy, James pulls the strings, and successfully gets Jang Jong-hyuk wanted for the murder of Ryan. The bank finally discovers the existence of the tunnel dug by intruders. Upon receiving the news, Jack hurries down the tunnel to check the situation. Judging from the bloodstains inside, it was definitely a fierce battle. He originally wanted to continue the investigation, but was told to halt the operation, and to quietly close the super counterfeit bill case, as if nothing had ever happened. The reason is that the director of the National Intelligence Service doesn't want the social circle to be exposed. At this moment, Jang Jong-hyuk already knows that he's on the wanted list. To smuggle the money out, he tracks down Kevin, who has just been released from prison. Kevin was originally full of resentment, but instantly grovels when he sees a truckload of money, telling Jang Jong-hyuk to ask for whatever he needs. Jang Jong-hyuk knows that Kevin has connections at the customs, telling him to help hide the money and goods, and send it out. As they are talking, Dr. Choi walks over and asks Jang Jong-hyuk to take her with him. She has skills and can make money wherever he takes her. Sujin is still wondering if Jack has caught Jay. She gets a severe scolding. Jack tells her to cut the act. If it weren't for that chemical reagent misleading him, he might have caught Jay a long time ago. Sujin doesn't understand what this means. Jack shouts angrily that she's in cahoots with Jay, deliberately creating a smokescreen to give Jay a chance to act. This time, Sujin finally gets it.
일 틀어지면 덮어씌우고 끝까지 믿고 밀어붙이는 놈이 없어.
With that said, Sujin leaves in a huff. But it's all just an act. She and Jack are still trusted partners. Ever since Sujin was released from prison, she has been reporting Jay's whereabouts. But Jay is as slippery as an eel and hard to catch, and now that things have turned out like this, they have to find another way to catch the cunning Jay. At this moment, Soyeon successfully locates Jang Jong-hyuk by tracking Dr. Choi's phone. Jang Jong-hyuk seems to notice that something is wrong with Dr. Choi, but he doesn't say anything. Seeing that they are about to leave, he needs to clean up his loose ends. So he reports the mole planted in the National Intelligence Service. Sujin returns to her residence. Jay and Soyeon have been waiting there for a long time. Sujin is confused about why Jay doesn't ask what she said at the National Intelligence Service.
가서 할 몫을 해줬는데 쉬어?
가서 할 몫을 해줬다니.
Sujin is shocked. Could it be that she's also part of Jay's plan? Jay gives an affirmative answer. Sujin asks how he guessed that she would cooperate with Jack. Jay says that he's a criminal analyst, and that analyzing is what he does best. He pays close attention to details. He secretly saw Sujin writing down the chemical formula, so he abandoned Plan B, and next, he'll use Sujin to lure out Jack, and let Jack go after Jang Jong-hyuk, while they take the opportunity to seize the 500 billion won. At the same time, after discussion, the members of the EG Social Circle also decide to use Jack to deal with Jang Jong-hyuk. At least this way they'll be safe. But Jack says that the USB drive is in Jay's hands. The director doesn't expect such a turn of events, but it doesn't matter anymore. He orders that no matter who has the USB drive, they must disappear from this world along with the drive. After it's done, he'll make Jack his assistant. This is a rare opportunity indeed. At this moment, Jang Jong-hyuk lets Dr. Choi send false information to mislead Jae. But will Jae really fall for it? Late at night, Jae finds Soo-jin and tells her to call Jack right away, informing him of Jang Jong-hyuk's operation time, and he also needs to get ready. Soo-jin wants to come along, but is told that she and Soyeon can't participate in this operation. Understanding that Jae is afraid she'll ruin things, Soo-jin doesn't press the issue. But how could she really not follow? With Soyeon's help, she successfully hides in the trunk. The next day, all three parties spring into action. Jack's men wait at the target location early, and spot Jang Jong-hyuk's car arriving. They immediately tell everyone to act naturally. At this moment, Jang Jong-hyuk is in the van behind the truck, looking like he has a lot on his mind. In fact, he not only knows that Jae will come to hijack the car, but also knows Jae's detailed plan inside out, because before the operation, he ordered Charlie to press a knife against Dr. Choi's neck, threatening her to tell everything if she wants to live. Dr. Choi is terrified of death, so she confesses that Jae will disguise himself as a taxi driver. That's why Jang Jong-hyuk keeps looking around, searching for Jae's whereabouts, and spots a taxi nearby. He realizes that this guy is Jae. At the same time, Soo-jin also contacts Jack, telling him that Jae is disguised as a driver, telling him to keep an eye out for any taxis. Jack is shocked to see a taxi right ahead. He has just told his men to stop the car, when he sees Jang Jong-hyuk's car crashing into Jae, so he quickly charges forward amid the chaos, thinking about what the director told him. Then Jack aims his gun at Jang Jong-hyuk. Jang Jong-hyuk sees that the situation is bad. He grabs Soo-jin, who has just climbed out of the trunk. Just then, the taxi driver wakes up. It turns out he is the broker, and he finds that he isn't hurt at all, so he contacts Jae. Jae was originally closing in on the rail truck carrying the money, but when he hears that Soo-jin is being held hostage, he actually chooses to turn the car around. On the way, Dr. Choi makes a video call. When he answers it, he finds that Soo-jin is indeed in Jang Jong-hyuk's car. Sometime later, Jang Jong-hyuk takes Soo-jin to the seaside, and says that luckily he blew up Master Yang's warehouse 5 years ago, otherwise how would Soo-jin have made 500 billion won for him later? Soo-jin is dumbfounded. She asks if Jae wasn't involved. Jang Jong-hyuk says he takes full responsibility for his actions. It turns out that, when Jae approached Jang Jong-hyuk for cooperation back then, he only wanted someone to help him clean up loose ends, and never intended to kill anyone. But Jang Jong-hyuk didn't care about any of that. He not only wanted to take all the money for himself, but also wanted to wrap things up in his own way. Jae is so angry that he charges forward, but is quickly knocked to the ground. Watching Jang Jong-hyuk take the money and leave, the next second, a violent explosion occurs in the warehouse. Jae thinks Soo-jin is inside. Just then, the underling who detonated the bomb for Jang Jong-hyuk appears. The guy is so scared that he drops his mask and runs away. Jae picks up the mask, puts it on, and rushes into the fire to look for someone. When he gets there, he only sees the already dead Master Yang. When Soo-jin comes back, he knows he has no face to see her, so he has to drive to chase Jang Jong-hyuk. But Jang Jong-hyuk is already long gone. To give Soo-jin an explanation, he hides and makes a new plan. Now that Soo-jin knows the truth, she really doesn't know what to say. At the same time, Jae calls Mary, telling her to do as he says, to find the customs officials that Jang Jong-hyuk bribed. Jang Jong-hyuk takes his men to the customs, and gives 600 million won to each of the two officials. The two officials smile and say, they'll definitely get the assigned task done well. But Jang Jong-hyuk is still not reassured. He proposes to get into the container together with the goods. The ship won't depart for another hour. Jang Jong-hyuk checks the time, and finds that the coward Jae hasn't shown up at all. In that case, he has to leave with the two women. After all, both of them are useful. It would be a pity to kill them outright. As he's talking, Jae drives in at full speed. He's quite confident, taking on a group of people all by himself. He gets stabbed through the kidney with a knife, but he's still quite capable of fighting right now. Charlie gets interested. He immediately steps forward and knocks Jae to the ground. Then he pins Jae down and beats him mercilessly. Soo-jin begs Jang Jong-hyuk to order Charlie to stop. As she speaks, she even picks up a knife. Then Jang Jong-hyuk takes his anger out on Jae again, mocking him for always being his defeated foe. Jae is beaten black and blue, but he still has a sharp tongue. He keeps hurling insults at Jang Jong-hyuk, but suddenly there's a gunshot. Jae falls into Charlie's arms right away, and it's Jack who fired the shot. He didn't actually hit Jae. Jae fell only because the bullet whizzed past his ear. With a loud noise, the situation is getting Tricky now, Jang Jong-hyuk has to resort to his old trick, and takes Soo-jin hostage. Soo-jin feels like she's about to be strangled to death. Just then, Jae makes a gesture that she's very familiar with. She recognizes that Jae is the elder brother, who played with her when she was a child. Soo-jin is extremely surprised. To save her, Jae has to tempt Jang Jong-hyuk with money. He shouts at Jang Jong-hyuk to let Soo-jin go, and take the 500 billion won to leave. He says he'll stay behind to help. Stop Jack! Perhaps Jang Jong-hyuk is too flustered to think straight, and he actually lets Soo-jin go. After stopping the others, Jae is about to take Soo-jin away. Jack doesn't want anyone to get hurt, so he doesn't fire at all, but he can't let the guilty parties leave either. So he tells his subordinates to stay and catch Jang Jong-hyuk. He himself drives to chase Jae. Jae drives a long way away before stopping the car. Soo-jin says she remembers everything now, remembering that they used to be the best of friends. Jae asks her why she has such a bad memory. As he speaks, he even leans forward playfully, but Jack catches up. Soo-jin still wants to explain that Master Yang's death was all a misunderstanding, only to find that Jack and Jae have no intention of fighting at all.
우리 셋 같은 목적이었네.
But Jack has one question: is he really going to let Jang Jong-hyuk get away with the 500 billion won? Jae gives a mysterious smile. Soo-jin knows he's about to leave. She says sadly that she hasn't had the chance to apologize yet. Jae tells her not to blame herself. After all, if he hadn't appeared in her life, Soo-jin's life wouldn't have been turned upside down.
내가 네 곁에 있으면 네 인생도 꼬일 거야.
He tells Soo-jin to live a good life from now on, warning her that in this world, real things can become fake, and fake things can become real. Then Jae jumps off the bridge. Soo-jin stares at the spot where he disappeared. Her mind can't help but drift back to the past. Back then, her father was seriously ill. It was Jae who brought her money. After that, Jae got on a coach bus. Soo-jin asked him when he would come back. He lied and said in 2 or 3 days, and on the 7th day after Jae left, the police came to her door, saying that he had defrauded more than 8 million won. That's when Soo-jin realized the life-saving money Jae brought was stolen. Jang Jong-hyuk is hiding in a bridge cave. When he suddenly hears an unusual sound from behind, he quickly grabs a knife and gets out of the car to check. Unexpectedly, it's Jack who has come with his men. Jang Jong-hyuk doesn't understand who exposed his location. Before he can finish speaking, Mary and the broker walk out of the back compartment. Obviously, this is Jae's arrangement. Mary and the broker say they need to go to the bathroom. The National Intelligence Service agents want to chase them, but Jack says to let them go, because the director has been threatened again, and doesn't want this matter to become a big scandal. This time, Jang Jong-hyuk has no way to escape again, but he isn't flustered at all. Thinking that he knows all the dirty secrets of the EG social circle, those people will definitely find a way to clear his name, just to keep him quiet. As he speaks, he even takes the handcuffs and puts them on himself voluntarily. Many days later, the news reports that Jang Jong-hyuk is a suspect in 2 murder cases, holding such a high position yet committing such insane acts. It causes quite a stir, but according to the director's orders, Jack was supposed to retrieve the USB drive and kill whoever has it, but now neither Jang Jong-hyuk nor Jae is dead, and the USB drive hasn't been recovered either. What's more, Jack has no intention of taking further action. He resolutely resigns from his position. Hank tries to persuade him nicely.
처자식 생각하세요. 에? 결혼을 했어야 처자식이 있지, 이 미친놈아.
Soo-jin keeps thinking about the words Jae said before he left, that in this world, real things have become fake, and fake things have become real. She can't shake the feeling that there's something fishy going on. Especially Jae's expression when he said those words was intriguing. Suddenly, it's as if she realizes something. Soo-jin contacts Jack right away, asking him if he has had the recovered 500 billion won verified. Jack is confused about why he would need to verify real money, but as for the super counterfeit bills from KC Bank, he applied for a re-verification 10 days ago, and the results should be coming out soon after. Hearing this, Soo-jin plans to go check it out too. At the same time, Jae, in disguise, goes to the prison to visit Jang Jong-hyuk. Jang Jong-hyuk says triumphantly that the robbery charge has been dismissed due to insufficient evidence. In the end, he was only sentenced to 3 years in prison for theft. Once his sentence is up, he'll definitely take revenge on Jae. But Jae says Jang Jong-hyuk won't be getting out of prison anytime soon. At the very least, he'll have to serve another 20 years. It turns out that the money in KC Bank was real all along, and the money Jang Jong-hyuk ran away with is the super counterfeit bills. It was all part of Jae's plan. They did swap the real money with counterfeit bills at first, but swapped them all back when Soyeon was distracted while working. At this moment, Soo-jin and Jack get the results of the money verification, and find out that all the money in KC Bank is genuine. Soo-jin finally figures out everything. She realizes that what Jae did was to ensure that Jang Jong-hyuk would serve at least 20 years in prison for the super counterfeit bills. This way, he could avenge Master Yang. Now that Jang Jong-hyuk has been punished, But should they just let those national parasites behind him off the hook? Actually, no, Soyeon directly hacks into Mike's secret account and exposes it without hesitation. As for how much the EG social circle will be affected by this, that is a story for another time. The prison guards escort Jang Jonghyuk to the court, but fail to notice him spit out a blade from his mouth, and Kevin and his men's car is following right beside them. Thus the series ends. This drama has distinct strengths and weaknesses. The strength is that no character is purely good or purely evil. Even Jack, who seems to be the most righteous one, is wrapped up in the obsession of revenge. Plus there's a big plot twist at the end. Overall, it's quite impressive, but the flaws are also obvious. For example, it's way too easy for Soyeon to hack into systems. She never fails whenever she tries, which seems a bit unrealistic. Besides, Jae being able to manipulate the entire situation without any hiccups is also overly idealistic. Also, the protagonists aren't innocent at all. The female lead was imprisoned for several years for making counterfeit money, while the male lead gets away with absolutely nothing. If you like my commentary, please subscribe to my channel. Your support is my greatest motivation. See you next time.